And next up at UFC Fight Night Cup, taking on Haraguchi 2, we've got Allan Nascimento taking on Mitch Raposo. And obviously this fight was meant to take place earlier on in the year. Mitch Raposo having to pull out of that fight due to an undisclosed illness. Obviously time has passed now. I'm expecting Mitch to come in as the best version of himself and obviously be healthy. Allan Nascimento, shooter box fighter, not known for his aggressive style though. Obviously that shooter box name carries that aggressive style, but Allan Nascimento on the feet, he gets backed up at times. He's got a bit of a Muay Thai style striking base. He likes that teep kick up the middle. And I think where he lacks is the boxing. At times, he can get backed up. And if you go and look at the fight against him and Cody Durden came into that fight very, very aggressive. He let his hands go. I would argue that Cody Durden, in terms of the boxing, is a little bit more cleaner. It has a little bit more power in the hands as well. And he was able to back Nascimento up and almost land and find the knockout on the feet until the grappling exchanges started to happen. Allan Nascimento really looked uncomfortable with that forward pressure of Cody Durden in that fight, especially with the hands. And I think where Nascimento it really shines is when people implement the grappling and really use their ability to be able to kind of get him to the ground, where he starts to sweep. He looks to implement his Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And obviously, most of his wins coming out of his 22 wins coming via submission. So obviously feels very comfortable on the ground. And even if you look at the Rafael Fialho fight, that really just came down to who was able to get the dominant position and really implement their top control. And obviously Allan Nascimento was able to sweep. He's a more of a position over submission guy, but his ability to be able to keep dominant positions really helps him sort of, implement his Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu style, opening up the opportunities for the submissions. He's not a guy that's going to, look to go for a dart or an anaconda when it's not there. He wants to play the top heavy game first. And obviously if people shoot in, he's got a nasty guillotine as well. But where I think Mitch Raposo can really have success is in the boxing and in the striking. Mitch Raposo has looked better from fight to fight. Obviously coming off the win against Azat Maxim, he was able to implement some grappling there and show off his overall wrestling skill set. And he is more of a grappler boxer, wrestler boxer. And I think that the boxing here can be used to win rounds, win exchanges against Nascimento. And his wrestling can be used defensively in order for him to be able to keep the fight standing if Nascimento decides to try to implement his own grappling. But I think Mitch's grappling is good enough to stay defensively sound. I would like to see Raposo keep this one standing and ultimately use the boxing. I'm going to lean to Mitch Raposo here as the slight underdog to get this one done. He's looked better from fight to fight. I think on the feet, obviously he can have success in the striking exchanges. And I think as well that Allan Nascimento is going to be submission or bust. As long as Raposo uses his wrestling defensively, he should have success here. If he decides to shoot him for sloppy takedowns as the fight goes on, I could see him getting submitted from Nascimento's front chokes, guillotines, or if he uses those submissions to be able to sweep and get into dominant positions, he might be in a world of trouble on the ground with Nascimento on top of him. But I'm going to say that Raposo comes in here, uses his striking, ultimately uses his wrestling defensively, and wins a unanimous decision. So give me Mitch Raposo here in the slight upset. Let's see who Carlos has got in this matchup.
Okay, in this one, I'm going to go with Nascimento to get it done. And I think Raposo's a decent fighter. He could be better if he stops looping the overhand right without the threat of a takedown. Especially how big and wide it's looping. You could see it coming from his back pocket. Without the threat of a takedown against a skilled striker, it's pretty much a waste of energy. And Nascimento, he does throw everything straight. So that's something you got to worry about if you're the shorter fighter trying to close the distance. He's not a skilled striker, but his fundamentals are there. So Raposo, he'll have to deal with the height and the reach, but he has to deal with that in every fight pretty much. So I just think Raposo's bouncing in and out is probably going to work against him. I think he should probably stay out of range, use his movement laterally, and when he's ready to, dart in and throw your strikes, because Nascimento, if you keep bouncing in and out, he's going to use that and he's going to time your in movement. And the way that Raposo throws, he throws whether his overhand right or even his jab, his head comes over his knees. So someone like Nascimento is just going to reach out, grab his head, and be able to control him in the clinch. And that's where I think he's going to have an issue as Raposo, because once he's in the clinch with someone like Nascimento just stays stuck to you. He's just going to be like Velcro until he can get you to the ground. And I think that's where Raposo is going to have an issue. So when he bounces in to throw his strikes, I think that's where he's going to get caught. Not caught because he's going to get tagged. I think he's just going to be able to be controlled. His head he extends way too far when he throws the strikes. I think that's where Nascimento is going to grab him, control his head, control the shoulders, get close to him, get him against the cage, and get him to the ground. And I feel that, Nascimento is going to get it done basically just because he has the height and the reach. He has that, Raposo has to deal with. But I think once he gets a hold of him, he's going to be able to get this to the ground. He's going to be able to control Raposo, and that's how he's going to get it done.